The monsoon season is just drawing to a close, and like each year, the Himalayas once again faced certain disruptions, whether it was the roadways, whether it was landslides, whether it was Badrinath, Kedarnath, especially the Chamoli district as well as the Garhwal area. Every year, virtually, we face the same story, and we know we've had really disastrous episodes in the past, like when the flash floods happened in Kedarnath. And then just recently we had a glacial lake burst. Forget about cloudbursts. We've heard of cloudbursts earlier, but then we heard a new term which was a glacial lake burst. So what is the reason that Himalayas are enduring so many catastrophes, so many disasters year after year? And what is the reason that every monsoon will lead to a disruption? The fact of the matter is, and we know it, that the Himalayas are facing a Himalayan ecological problem. Just to let us examine the factors that we are really looking at. The first of all, one has to say it has something to do with deforestation, and deforestation is not a problem which is confined to the Himalayas. It is a problem which is planet-wide pervasive, but particularly in the Himalayas it is extremely important because, as we all know, the roots of the trees actually hold the soil together. And you would have, if you've gone on a summer holiday sometimes to the Himalayan regions, you would have seen certain roads that you pass by, and you can see the sites where actually the roots are jutting out. They have been exposed, and that is because the hills have been carved to such an extent that the roots of the trees have been exposed, and finally those trees are going to wither because those roots will no longer be capable of drawing nutrition as well as water for those trees. So this is a major issue in terms of deforestation. It makes the soil so loose with the tree cover gone because we are making wider roads, we are making new areas where we are cutting roads, and of course there's construction. So which means that slowly and steadily these trees are getting cut, and it takes absolutely decades for new trees to come up by the time they are replanted. So that is one. The other is not just the fact that there's construction, there's unplanned construction. Meaning that they will build anywhere. Again, if you have been to any of these hill stations, you would have noticed alongside the river banks, right on the river banks, you have hotels. While they're very charming for you to be living in a hotel where you can actually see the river just down below, the fact of the matter is it has encroached the bank area. And that is exactly what had happened a couple of decades back when the Kedarnath incident happened and the flash flood happened, because the fact of the matter is, when there's more water, or suppose there's a cloudburst, so there's suddenly a surge of water in the rivers, where does the water go? Because the course of the river has changed, because the buildings which were giving it any leeway for the water to spread out and move out has disappeared, because there are buildings and hotels right on the bank area. So that is an issue. The second thing is, when you're doing the construction, we are doing it increasingly through new technology, and which is explosives. Because I have read books on the Himalayas which are about 100 years back. It used to be done through hand, through this. So actually when the first roads were created, when you're not using explosives actually, and you're using hand technology, and not that one is saying that one goes back to those areas, but those are actually, we have to look at more ecologically friendly methods. Explosives make the mountains weak, they make the rocks weak, and they develop cracks in the rocks which are solid. So what happens is, any sort of a weight which falls on the river, whether it is through a cloudburst or through sudden surge of water, then the rocks start cracking and falling. Or even generally, if it's a heavy downpour, the rocks start falling. So that is another. And then the third point associated with construction is the debris of the construction. One doesn't know where to get rid of it. We are not getting rid of it properly. We're not disposing it properly. We just dump it in the rivers. and that also means that the water levels keep rising and the space for the rivers to flow naturally starts contracting. So these 2-3 are the primary reasons as far as human intervention is concerned, whether it's deforestation or different types of construction, as I mentioned, or the unplanned construction, explosives. But then there are also natural reasons, and that is due to the warming of the planet and climate change. And those are very, very important reasons. I mentioned initially about the glacial lake burst. Why does that happen? Because suddenly the water in these glaciers has increased so much, because the speed with which the glaciers are melting has also increased. So you have these causes where the glacial lake bursts, and there's such a surge of water that one doesn't know how to deal with it. Plus the hydro power plants which are being constructed may or may not be absolutely earthquake resistant or natural calamity resistant in terms of the strength of these constructions. So that is another issue. But one point that I would also like to say, which is linked with climate change, is the retreating of glaciers, and there's a lot of study material and research on it, that as glaciers as an intrinsic quality are never totally sturdy or what might say dormant, or they're always moving, even if they're moving by extremely slow pace and very small area, but they're always moving. And with global warming and with the weather changes, actually they've started melting and retreating. So what happens is, and scientific evidence proves the fact that the area that they're vacating is actually very weak, and all those rocks and the debris, when the glaciers move, that rock material, that area which has been vacated, starts loosening and also starts causing these stone falls, and so much more debris comes in terms of stone with the river. So these multitude of factors are all reasons for which we need to actually take a very considerate view about how we need to deal with the future of Himalayas in terms of making them ecologically sustainable. We must realize at the end of the day, Himalayas are our greatest protection. They are the greatest natural barrier, not just against the vagaries of climate, but also they are the most sturdy defense mechanism in the northern border of the country against designs possibly of neighbors, and they provide us the best protection, and they've been providing us the best protection for centuries against invasion. And therefore it begets all of us that we must do our bit to preserve the pristine beauty as well as the good health of these beautiful mountains.